figuring these things out. And I usually don't share a screen during going live. So this is exciting just to test all of this out.
Mm-hmm.
And yep, we are live. And I'm going to mute here because it was echoing before. Going to go to my, there we go. All right. Go to my, whoops, I don't need to hear that. There we go. We are live. So here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Bobbie James with JamszKonnections. And I have my guest speaker with me tonight, Miss Linda Osborn. Hey, Linda.
Hey, nice to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. And so, guys, we're trying something a little bit different. We usually present, talk about it Tuesday. We've done it in person before, and we all know we're dealing with a pandemic. And so, as most people are doing events, networking events, and things like that, pivoting to online. So, a young man planted a seed with me yesterday that, hey, have this every week and stream it on Facebook Live. So Linda was gracious enough to be
the guinea pig,
our guinea pig, yes, to trying this out tonight. So if you're chiming in live now, or if you chime in later, thank you for taking the time to check us out. The topic tonight is about real estate during a pandemic. And I honestly feel that Linda has an amazing experience and knowledge when it comes to real estate. But we'll get to that later. I wanted to take a moment to say welcome, take a little moment to kind of go through our, getting ahead of myself, say welcome and setting the tone. You know, if you do happen to come in right now, is just simply sharing with you that Talk About It Tuesdays is opportunity for us to come together, you know, entrepreneurs, small business owners, speakers, authors, coaches, just various types of people coming together, collaborating in ways to improve your personal life and your business life. But we want it to be a positive experience, no drama. You know, if anyone was in the room, we wouldn't want you to have your mic on. And of course, always dressing appropriately when you're on camera. And of course, through Facebook Live, we don't have to worry about that. And just, again, all about being positive, respectful, and just supporting each other. So again, we are JamszKonnections. We are event planners, and we offer our event planning services for social good. And basically what that means is when you hire us, partner with us, attend an event, sponsor an event, donate to us, volunteer with us, buy an ad, in any of those things. It's not intended to be a sell. It's just intended to be information of saying why we do what we do. As many of you know, as business owners and entrepreneurs, it's important to build relationships. It's important for you to build trust and things like that as you may do referrals. And so that's simply for information purposes of if you find you're at a point that you trust us and trust our product and trust me, trust JamszKonnections, that maybe you'll eventually do business with us. But my desire for bringing this together was for us to connect and serve each other, get some education on various topics. So again, thank you for being here and giving us an opportunity to share with you. And then you guys can take some time. I'm going to move this a little bit. I'm going to move us to the bottom so you guys can read about Linda. And I just want to personally take time to say how I met Linda and why I thought she might be a good fit. I met Linda at another networking event, and we just started talking and had a one-on-one, as a lot of business owners do when you go to networking events. Is, hey, you have one-on-ones to learn how to get to know each other and build that trust. And so again, what I believe Linda to be is someone that cares about her clients, She prides herself on learning about her product, to making sure that she can present to her clients the best information possible. And as I already said earlier, this pandemic is bringing all sorts of changes and different life
Yeah.
for everyone. And I thought I basically asked her, so what's going on even in the pandemic? And because I've heard other people say that they've still been busy in regards to real estate. And so I thought, hey, it's holiday time. A lot of people get houses uh, for a holiday gift. It's been a crazy year for 2020, and some people might want to go, you know what? I might want to be in a different house
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2020. I might want to
Right.
sell this house that I'm in, or I might want to buy a new house. And so it's just, I thought it was still a great opportunity in the month of December. Let's talk about what life looks like in the year coming 2021. And again, I often hear people are transitioned during this time of year, and it's probably in the same concept, right? Of a new year is upon us. What are we going to do differently? And so again, I still thought it was a great timing to invite Linda to share with us her experience. So again, hopefully you guys, I've rambled long enough for you to have read about her great experience and expertise. I personally feel that she's amazing and that she has a lot of knowledge to offer to you. So we're just going to basically have conversation and talk about the experiences I've had, the experiences she's had, and where she might be able to serve you and give you some tips of if you're thinking about buying a home or selling a home, how she might best be able to help you navigate through that. And so here we are at having that conversation. I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint and we're just going to talk about it. Welcome, Linda. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy being here as
Yeah.
always. So I figured I'd just start with a kind of really quick what happened during the past year in the real
Okay.
estate space.
Yeah, please.
So as many of you may know, Austin has been a crazy, inclining, meaning going up, getting better, or prices going higher. Real estate market for pushing 11 years now, which is an all-time record. We rarely have up cycles that are that long. Usually we're up for like 7 years, then we're down for a few years, then we're up for 6 or 7 years, and we're down. So we're currently at an all-time. We're at 11 years. Still prices going up. And some very interesting things happened this year. So when March hit, and all of a sudden we were told you don't go outside, you stay home. The whole real estate market, just like everything else, took a nosedive. And we stopped. We essentially stopped for like a month or two until everybody figured out, well, what can we do? What can we do? What can't we do? What should we advise people to do? What shouldn't we advise people to do? And so we like tanked. Everything stopped for like a month or two. And then as people started getting a little bit more comfortable, they started figuring out how you can still buy and sell houses and be safe, things started going back up again. But a few other things that happened during this period that put us where we are today. So the first thing is, so every year around April, May, all of a sudden people who were planning to sell their houses, they have them for a long time. They've been planning through last year that they're going to sell them. They usually want to wait till May through August. That's usually the peak sales time. And that's when they're getting ready to do it. So all of a sudden this thing happened and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I want people in my house. I don't know what to do. So what resulted out of that, one other thing, that and the fact that all of a sudden now we're spending more time in our homes. And so people that were planning on downsizing, for example, said, maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe having to spend 24 hours with my spouse a day, maybe we want to stay in a little bit bigger space. And so several things happened. People were afraid to move. They didn't know how, or they didn't know if they could do it safely, or they decided, no, I'm staying here. This is where I am, and this is where I'm staying. And unlike the 2007-8 period, we have like 70% of the people who own houses have a lot of equity in it. And so, you know, if they were to sell, you know, they'd make a lot of money, but they also have enough equity that they can stay if they need to stay. And so that's the first thing that happened. People that were planning to sell decided not to. And what that did was it drove the supply down. So all of a sudden, when we planned on, let's say, having 5,000 houses on the market for sale, we only ended up with like maybe a half to 2/3 of that in a normal market. So all of a sudden the supply is way down. The second thing happened, as everybody knows, is the interest rates took all-time lows. They're basically almost at all-time lows. I was thinking when I bought my first house, which is a condo, I paid 14%. So this kind of percent, we're down in the 2s and 3s. That's crazy low. Mm-hmm. And so people that still can buy should buy, or they're trying to buy, because they can buy a lot more house than they could 2 or 3 years ago with 2%.
Right.
So now you have people that want to take advantage of the low interest rates, which was the point of keeping them low when the Fed did it.
Right.
That market strong. You have all these people. Now you have a bunch of buyers, you know, wanting to buy. So you have less supply, more buyers wanting to buy. And then you have jobs. Austin has jobs. Austin keeps making jobs, and people are still moving here and moving here and moving here. So now we have more people that want houses. And the next thing that happened is that builders, because of COVID, their material supply went down. Mm. So they're not getting the lumber that they used to get, or it's costing them a lot more. Mm. They're not getting, you know, a lot of the materials that they used to get, and they have so much demand that they're afraid to commit to building more than, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 houses a month, because they just have, it's on and on and on, and they don't want to promise somebody that they're going to have a house in 6 months and end up not giving it to them for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So that's what you have going on now. You have this crazy high demand, crazy low supply, and that's what's driving the prices up.
Gotcha.
And so what that's doing is it's making really, really, really hard for people to buy without going into multiple offer situations. And it's the best seller's market I've ever seen. And wow. I've talked to people that have been in the industry a lot longer than me, and it's the best seller's market they've ever seen.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where we are and how we got here now.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. So mm-hmm. I've had the opportunity to buy twice in my life.
Okay.
Once was in Pflugerville. Mm-hmm. Maybe can you share with the audience, you know, when it comes to, I've heard anyway, when it comes to from a real commercial perspective, location. Mm-hmm. Is that true for residential as well? And is that, I moved to Pflugerville because of the surrounding areas. For me, that was it within my price point of willing to spend. Can you explain to the audience what determines a pricing perhaps in a particular community?
I mean, it basically comes down to supply and demand. How many people want to live there? Okay. You know, I always wondered when I moved to Austin, which was in 1996, I had a rental property back in Indiana, and in 2006, I sold that and bought 2, and one was in Pflugerville. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out why Pflugerville, at that time, the prices in Pflugerville were actually significantly lower than the prices in Austin, for example, or in the surrounding areas, or even in Round Rock. And I couldn't figure it out. I kept thinking, why is that? It's closer than Round Rock to Austin. And then it just had to do with some perceived desirability of the area. I don't know what it was. I just know that was it. Now it's sort of turned around. I mean, Pflugerville's still a little bit lower, but it's shooting up really fast. Mm-hmm. And so that's what drives it today, is how close it is to the city. Okay. So as you get farther out, the rate at which homes go up tends to be a little bit lower slope. But I mean, I'm paying attention to mostly Austin and North Austin, which is Cedar Park, Pflugerville, Leander, Georgetown, Round Rock, and all of these areas are exploding right now, and the prices are going up really fast.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that. One of the things that if maybe you can share with the audience as well, especially if it's for someone that's a new home buyer, right? That's just
Mhm.
really not, just really doesn't know where to start. Do you have any recommendations or tips that you can share to the potential new buyer, of things to look for, things to make sure they're not getting those gotchas, you know what I mean? What types of relationships they might want to build with what they're looking for in a real estate agent, or what they're looking for in a builder, or what they might be looking for from a inspector, if that's separate,
Sure.
just things like that.
So if you're a buyer, the first thing, now this may change, I'm not going to go into that, but the first thing I would do is I would find a good real estate agent. A lot of people just go straight to builders. The builder isn't working for you. The builder's working for the builder. So I'm not really sure why people do that, because the real estate, when you're a buyer today, and I say today because again, this may change. When you're a buyer today, 99% of the time, the cost of the realtor comes from the seller or the builder. So most buyers do not have to pay for their realtor today. And so it always seems to me that if you have a good realtor, then the realtor's job is to be on your side, to fight for you, get you the best, to advise you on the best moves to make, to get you the best price for your home, to negotiate those repairs so that if something really does need repaired, it gets done before you actually end up in the home, to advise you on who's a good home inspector and that sort of thing. And you should come up with some questions, because I know a lot of people think all agents are the same, and they're really not. And I hate to say this, but it's my opinion that the bar for real estate agents to get your license is actually really low. So you have a lot of people out there that have licenses that really haven't done a lot of buying and selling, and they don't really understand, what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, that kind of thing. So realtor first. Second thing, find a good mortgage person. And this can be your realtor should be able to lead you in the right direction. And the reason you want a good mortgage person is because you want to know where your finances are. You want to know what your credit is, and then whether and how much you can buy, and whether if you did just these few things, you could get your credit up, which would kick your interest rate down, which would make you be able to buy more house. And so to me, those are the two things: realtor first, mortgage person second. And then the mortgage person will help direct you as to what kind of mortgage works best for you. And if they don't, then you need another mortgage person. So anyway, and there's a lot of options. So those would be the two big things that I would do if I was, especially if I'm new to buying a house. I would definitely start with identifying those two people and finding people I'm comfortable with.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And do you have any perhaps pros, cons for anyone that's looking to, again, in any aspect of them buying, maybe that it's not, maybe they're a first time buyer, or maybe they are seasoned, they bought more than one house before. In your opinion, is there a pros and cons to buy, not buy? I know you're a real estate agent, and maybe that's not an appropriate question to ask.
My job is to do what's best for you. It's not to sell you a house because I want the money. It's to tell you what's the best for you. And honestly, a lot of that will depend on what your income is, where you want to live, how much you qualify for or not, and how long you want to be there. I mean, if you actually want to be and in my opinion, if you have pets, if you have pets and you're going to want to be somewhere for, 5 years, I would usually try to get a house. I just think it's a lot easier. There's a lot less complications. Trying to get, especially if you have more than one pet, or if you have a large pet, trying to get leases can be difficult and can be frustrating.
Yeah.
So that's my general opinion, but I still think it comes down to, what are rents at the time? What can you buy houses for at the time? What are the interest rates? How does it fit in with where you live and where you work and how much money you make and how solid you believe your job is, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very specific to a person. You can't really give a lot of generalities. You have to kind of drill down and find out what they need specifically. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one other question that I wanted to ask you. Oh, so we've kind of talked, mainly I've been leaning towards someone that's, is first time buyer. And so what about from a position of someone that might be looking to sell a home? What tips might you offer to someone that's looking to sell?
So personally, I think the biggest mistake people make when they go to sell is they don't talk to their real estate agent soon enough.
Mm,
And the biggest thing to me is, especially if you've been in a home for a long time,
mhm,
and you haven't kept up with it or haven't kept it updated or whatever, your real
mhm.
estate agent can help you decide what's the right thing to spend your money on so that you get most of it back. And what things maybe you should not do or should only, do a few fixes on because it's going to be too much money for you to spend and you won't get it all back when you send in the house. And what I find is I find people that will do all kinds of major renovations and replace the roof and do all this stuff. And then you go in, you're like, okay, that's great. And this is what you're going to get. And they're like, wait, I just spent $30,000 on all this stuff. And you're like, yeah. So be very careful. so that's one thing. The second thing is I always advise sellers to pre-inspect, which means go out and hire a home inspector, which your realtor can give you some advice on who, and give you some, and find out, because they're trained to look at specific things, and they're all trained and they're all licensed by the Texas Real Estate Commission. So they're trained to look at the same things.
Mhm.
And so people lose money when they sell a house at two major times. The first one is when you get offers, right? You in the negotiation of the actual upfront contract. So that's the first place you can lose money. The second place, and usually the biggest place, is after the inspection.
Mhm.
Because if that inspection goes in and looks at your house and finds something that's a really big deal that you're not aware of, I mean, I've had clients have to lower their house price by 10, 20, even $30,000 because of a major issue that the seller didn't know they had.
Mm.
So that would be my second thing. Pre-inspection, depending on the size of your house, will cost you between $400 and $800, whereas you can lose thousands. So do it. Just do it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And would you say that in your experience of however long you've been a real estate agent, that there are some typical um, things that stump people that you come across, or do you feel that we've kind of covered those little pitfalls that you might see your clients facing?
Well, I mean, I think most people, again, they don't really know what agents do and they don't know what questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have a list, which I could, if anybody wants it, I could get it to them. But I have a list of, these are the questions when you sell a house that you should ask. These are the questions when you buy a house that you should ask about the real estate agent. And you want to make sure that you not only get a real estate agent that you get along with, you trust, but that, really you believe knows what to do and will have your best interest at heart.
I love that. I love
Mhm.
that. And I do feel that oftentimes people don't take the time to build those relationships and making sure that they have the right person, because it can make a difference.
Mhm.
I've known several real estate agents, and in my experience of buying a home, selling a home, it's made the biggest difference of
Right.
having that established relationship, feeling
Yeah.
that I can feel comfortable asking certain questions and then trust the answers that I'm getting.
That's
Right?
right. Yeah.
Because it's great to have a set of questions, but then are you going to trust the answer?
Mhm.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And would you find value in folks doing a little bit of their own research of discovering neighborhoods where they might want to live?
Yes, I actually think people should do that. I
Yeah.
think that, I mean, when you buy a house, it's really where you're going to live. I mean, I can help you with certain neighborhoods and schools, and that can give you resources. But ultimately, to me, if you figure out where you will want to live first, that's always helpful. And then always gets you then in the right location.
Yeah.
I just don't like to guess, I don't like to say, well, I think you'd like this when I haven't known you that long and I don't know your family and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Cool. Makes sense.
Mhm.
And in your experience of being a real estate agent or buying a home yourself,
Mhm.
are there any, I don't know, moments where you're like, I wish I would have known this when I first bought a home or first sold a home kind of
That's a
thing?
really good question. Yeah. So there are a couple. The first one is, um, you you can buy a home. I want everybody to know you can buy a home with less than 20% down. A lot of people think you have to have 20% down.
Mhm.
Depending on the loan, you can go. I mean, if you're VA, you can get 0% down. If you're FHA, you can go as low as 3.5%. But just be aware that when and if you do that, there are gotchas. And I personally always, now that I know, try to put at least 20% down because it reduces the PMI, the private mortgage insurance that you have to pay, which is a fee, basically, to the bank. So now, if you can't, then you can't. But the other thing you should know is that in most cases, I think with the exception of maybe FHA today, after you've got more than 20% equity in your home, you can actually get that PMI taken off. So those are two things that I think a lot of people don't know they should know. The second thing is while you have a contract on your house, you're ready to buy a house, don't buy your furniture yet. Don't buy a car. Don't buy anything big that's going to screw up your credit. And I've had this happen several times. Somebody, they were buying a house by the lake, and before they closed on the house, they went and bought a boat. Don't do that because it screws up your credit. The bank will run your credit again, like within a day or two of closing, just to make sure you still don't have too much debt. Your job's still good and all these kind of things. Just wait a few more days till you close. Then you can spend all the money you want. But don't do it before closing.
I mean, I can so appreciate and understand where people, the temptation, right?
It's
And
exciting,
excited.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But
you don't have a living room. You have a whole new living room. You want a whole new living room set of furniture and a stereo and a big TV. I get it. Just wait.
right.
Just
So
wait.
listen, guys, she's not telling you don't do it.
Yeah,
Timing is everything. Just
it
be a
is.
little patient.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I've been enjoying our conversation, and there are really no other questions that I can think of. I'm so thankful to you, Linda, for your time. Are there any other thoughts or you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think with regard to sellers, first of all, I want to reiterate, this is the best sellers market I have ever seen. If you or anyone you know, is even thinking about selling sometime in the next year, and B, already has a place to live or know where they're going to live, because if you're thinking of selling but you don't have a place to live yet, that could be a problem. But but if you know, I would highly, highly, highly recommend you think about selling soon. You're going to do very well. I mean, it's a crazy market. And the second thing is, again, make sure you understand what your real estate agent is doing, and be very, very, and this is the big thing to me, very, very careful about making sure you understand what your house is worth, and don't just take anything that's told to you, because agents who want your business will tell you they can sell your house higher to get your business, and knowing that if your house doesn't sell in the first 2 to 4 weeks, that they can get you to lower it, and that way they got your business. So just be very careful. There's been a lot of research that I've done that National Association of Realtors has done, and Keeping Current Matters, which is an expert in this area, that's done, that shows that the most important thing is getting more people to come and look at your house at the same time and early.
Mm.
So it's better to price it at market or even a tiny bit low. And then after, basically pit those buyers against each other to drive the price back up. So they'd be very careful. I just say, I know people that will go out and they'll just go with the real estate agents that tells them the most. And it's proven that if you start too high, you'll end up with less money in the long run and a longer time to sell your house than if you started low and drove it up. So those are two really big things.
Great, thank you for that. And where might one find their market value? If they
That is the hardest thing, is finding the market value. I mean, it's basically finding an agent that you can trust, because you can't trust Zillow today. Zillow, it'll be interesting to see. Zillow's actually becoming a brokerage next year, so we'll see what happens with that. But so Texas is a non-disclosure state, which means today the sale price of houses in your neighborhood or around you, they're not disclosed to the public. They are disclosed, internal to the whole MLS system and the real estate, but they're not disclosed to the public, which is also why if you ever get a little letter in the mail from the Travis, tax CAD basically, or Williamson County CAD, and they ask you what you bought or sold your home for or whatever, don't tell them. It's none of their business. They'll make it look like it's, a big legal thing, and, you're going to get in trouble if you don't tell them. That's not the case. Okay. So where was I? Kind of lost my train of thought.
Market price and how one might find their
market. Yeah. So the biggest thing is to find, again, you can either get an appraiser to do it and pay them for it, which or you can find a real estate agent that you trust to do it. I mean, it's always good to have a real estate agent in your network that you can just, hey, I want to know what my house is, and they don't automatically assume that just because you asked the price that you're going to sell it that instant. Right?
Gotcha. That makes me think about, again, my first experience of buying a home. I really didn't have a lot of experience or expertise or knowledge, and understanding how my mortgage, what it was based upon, and how it might impact. So can you talk a little bit about the taxes, associated with an interest rate and stuff like that, how it might impact one's mortgage, and how do they come about identifying what your mortgage is going to be? Yeah.
Well, okay. So let's cut it down a little bit. So when you buy a house and you have a monthly payment, it's usually broken down into several things today. And if assuming that you don't buy it cash or whatever, you have a mortgage payment and you're setting it up in escrow. So it's made up of the mortgage itself, which is how much you're borrowing to buy the house, which is generally made up of the amount of the price of the house minus the amount you're putting down. So that's the mortgage piece. The tax piece, so it's the property tax piece. And that's based on the value of the house and the tax rate, which in this area is forever changing. And I don't know if you're paying attention, but in new neighborhoods, it's higher. If you look at new neighborhoods in Hutto or Buda or, maybe, way out in the Blackhawk area in Pflugerville, where there's basically new homes all the time, in newer neighborhoods, tax rates are higher than they are in older neighborhoods. So that's why you'll see sometimes that in Austin, the tax rates can be in the 2.2% range, whereas in Hutto, I've seen them in the 3.2% range. It makes a really big difference because, if you buy a $5,000 home and it's at 1%, that's if you buy a $500,000 home, that's $5,000. If it's 2%, it's $10,000 a year. If it's 3%, it's $15,000 a year. That's a lot of taxes. And then you're dividing that up monthly, which is over $1,000 a month. You're paying just in your property taxes. So pay attention, because newer areas cost more. And the reason is because in newer areas, they basically are using that money to help put in the infrastructure, the roads, the sewer, the water, the electricity. They're using that money. And so when they're putting in whole new subdivisions, they need a lot more money. So that's why. Other pieces are your property insurance. So they'll basically take a year of that up front and give you a monthly fee for that. That'll be in part of your payment. And then the PMI, which is part of your mortgage if you didn't put 20% down. So there's a whole bunch of different things that go into your monthly payment. And then the other thing is to pay attention to is if you have an HOA, that doesn't go into your monthly payment, but it's something you have to pay monthly. So, I mean, we have HOAs, that are, you can pay $25 a month or you can pay $600 a month. It really depends on where you are, how many amenities they're supplying. If you're living in a high-end, golf community with tennis courts and big gigantic clubhouse and pools and stuff, it's going to cost you more than if you're just living in a place that has common areas or something, or parks, right? So your mortgage person will help you figure out whether, you can afford it. But I never believe that people should max that out. I always think they should spend less than what a mortgage company says they should spend, because it just ends up being too hard sometimes.
Great, thank you. It just occurred to me of other things that, again, anyone that's listening to this and they perhaps might be, I think these are things they always want to look at, but
Right.
If you've been burnt by it, you're going to pay attention to it a little bit
Right,
more,
exactly.
right? And
Yeah.
I did find myself kind of scratching my head, like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize all these things were associated with buying a home. I'm thankful for the opportunity to gain that experience, but it's nice to have, where you can bring this knowledge to you at the beginning and
Right.
not
Right, and not have to figure it all out
experience.
yourself. Exactly.
Right.
And
So,
I've bought and sold a lot more homes than probably most people will do in a lifetime. So yeah,
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so, Linda, how might someone get in touch with you? I know, again, Talk About It Tuesday is not about pitching,
right.
anything.
Right.
However, I still want to give you, the opportunity, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, that they can contact you. Do you have an email, a website you can refer them to?
Yeah, so if you're going to sell, the best website is 72soldaustin.com. And it's got my phone number and contact information there. That's also a place where if you wanted to go find out what the value of your house was, you just go ahead and enter the house value or the house address, and it'll contact me automatically. And then my general website is lindaosbornhomes.com. That's LINDA Osborn, OSB as in boy, OR as in Ralph, N as in Nancy, no E, Homes, HOMES.com.
That's awesome. Linda, I've enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing this information. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed it. Anyone that's come on live, or if you see this later, this really is intended for it to help you in your personal life. And, do you have any recommendations if anyone wanted to do, what's my word? Right now there may not be a lot of commercial buying, but if someone by chance comes across this, do you have any recommendations for anyone that's on the commercial side?
As far as buying commercial or what?
Yeah.
Mostly I would just put, I personally don't do commercial.
Right.
My partner does churches, so she buys and sells churches. But other than that, I would probably just recommend, I would find somebody to recommend or to refer you to. I don't do commercial myself.
Yeah, and I get it, just a passing thought, like trying to cover everybody, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's like, well, hey, we're here to help life be better, improve again your business or personal life, and I don't want to forget anybody, and maybe I still did. But again, thank you guys so much for your time. It's Talk About It Tuesday. I'm Bobbie James with JamszKonnections. We are trying something new tonight. And so for now, we're meeting every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. And hey, you might see us on a weekly basis. And thank you guys for being here. I'm going to stop streaming live on Facebook. Miss Linda, you and I can chat
just a little bit.